At the edge of youth, I heard them whisper, "She will be a passing storm, not the changing of seasons." I let their words fall like autumn leaves. 100 winters later, when their names melted into forgotten snows, it was my story, not theirs, that was etched into the eternal calendar by hands who never even knew why they once doubted a girl in the fall of another age. Not with the whispers. Not with the small town or the storm metaphors. It starts when I decided to stop being mad and started building my revenge. I didn't just leave Wabash because I wanted to prove a point. I left because I had no choice. That town would have swallowed me whole if I stayed. Every teacher, every parent, every neighbor had already decided who I was going to be. And it wasn't anything good. "You're a troublemaker," Principal Riggins said during one of our last meetings. "You talk too much," my geometry teacher muttered as I corrected her during class. "Boys don't like girls who argue," a classmate's mom said to me at a football game. I wasn't trying to be difficult. I just had opinions. I asked questions. I wanted to be more than what Wabash thought a girl like me could be. And for that, they decided I'd vanish. They were wrong. College wasn't easy. I didn't come from money. I worked nights at a gas station, mornings at the student center. I flunked a couple classes early on because I was so tired. I'd fall asleep in lectures. But I didn't stop. I taped a little piece of paper inside my notebook that read, "She'll peak in high school." Every time I felt like quitting, I looked at that note. It wasn't just fuel. It was fire. By the time I graduated, I had job offers from 3 engineering firms. I took the one in Minneapolis. It was cold, brutal, far from home, exactly what I wanted. I worked for a decade in sustainable infrastructure, built wind farms in the Dakotas, helped redesign waste systems in rural towns that looked just like Wabash. Then came the break. I got a call from a venture group out of Chicago. They wanted to start a clean energy development company focused on the Midwest. They needed someone who knew the land, the towns, the culture. Someone who could get things done without walking in like a city snob. I said yes. And then I got to work. Within 6 years, I was the CEO. We had government contracts, private funding, and our name in trade magazines. I had money. I had power. I had the kind of quiet influence that never makes headlines but moves worlds. And I still remembered every word they said to me at 17. When the opportunity came to acquire land in Wabash, it didn't come with fanfare. It was just a line in a report. Abandoned school property. No buyers. I clicked on the link. There it was. Wabash High School. Shuttered. Falling apart. Still standing. I stared at that photo for 10 full minutes. Then I called my lawyer. "I want it," I said. "Buy it through the shell company. Don't use my name. And while you're at it, look into who's running the school board." We bought the school. Then the district. Then the farmland behind it. Slowly. Quietly. Carefully. Every move strategic. Every dollar placed like a chess piece. Then I started building. First came the cleanup. Toxic waste buried under the football field. I exposed it. Made them pay fines. Next, the resignations. Superintendent. Treasurer. Board members. All gone. I put my people in. When it was ready, I showed up. I hadn't seen Ricker in 20 years. But I recognized him instantly. Same ball cap. Same paunch. Same smug face. He squinted at me across the town hall room and gave me that fake forced smile. "Laney Hart," he said. "Well, I'll be damned. Thought you'd moved on." I didn't say hi. I didn't say it was nice to see him. I just said, "I did. But I came back to finish something." Then I unveiled the plan. The Wabash Clean Tech Campus. A solar field. A wind training tower. Classrooms. Dorms. Labs. Free education for any high schooler in town. Job placement guaranteed. It was everything they said I'd never do. And it was just the beginning. Not everyone was happy I came back. The older folks didn't trust change, especially not from someone they once laughed at. Some of them still remembered the mouthy teenager who argued with teachers and didn't go to prom. A few even muttered it out loud at town meetings. "She was always a problem. This town doesn't need to be fixed. She thinks she's better than us now." But I didn't come back for approval. I came to rewrite what they wrote about me. Things got ugly when the money started moving. The Wabash County Gazette ran a front-page article titled, "Outsider Buys Up School Land. What's the Real Plan?" That was planted. I knew it the second I saw the byline. Jenny Hensley. Yeah, that Hensley. The daughter of the man who said I'd never last. Turns out, she followed in her dad's footsteps, same smug tone. Same eye for putting women like me back in a box. The article made it look like I was turning the school into some evil corporation front. They quoted anonymous sources, saying I planned to sell out to developers. They said I was just another rich suit pretending to care. Bullshit. I had proof, plans, contracts, public meetings. Everything was open and legal. But lies move faster than truth in a small town. Suddenly, people who'd been shaking my hand a week ago were looking at me sideways in the grocery store. Someone threw a brick through the window of the new admin building we were renovating. No note.
No camera footy.
Just glass, rage, and the message, "We don't want you here." I stayed calm. I showed up every day, talked to students, met with parents. But under the surface I was seething. Then the next twist hit. 3 of the biggest contracts tied to the campus build-out permits, electrical work, landscaping were denied by the local review board. They didn't even try to hide it. They just said insufficient documentation, or not aligned with the town's interests. All 3 board members were connected to Hensley. One of them was her cousin. Another used to coach under Ricker. The third was her mother's old friend. They were choking the project from the inside. So I fought back. I hired private investigators, dug through their finances, looked for every deal, every shady connection. I found what I needed. One board member had approved his own brother-in-law's contracting company for years without bids. Another had tax evasion issues. The last one? A harassment claim buried by a hush payout 2 years ago. I didn't expose them right away. I waited. I invited them to a private negotiation meeting with my legal team. Sat across from them in a windowless room. No press.
No fanfare.
"I know what you're doing," I said. "And I know how to end it." I slid 3 folders across the table. One for each. Take a leave. Resign quietly. Or I will make this public. And I promise you your names won't survive the fallout. They folded. All 3. Within a week they were gone. The permits came through. The project moved forward. But I wasn't done. There was still Jenny. Still Ricker. Still the people who didn't just doubt me, but tried to destroy me. And that's when the final piece of the twist showed up. A letter. Handwritten. No return address. Inside, a copy of the old yearbook. Mine. And one sentence scribbled across the front page. "You didn't just come back to fix things. You came to erase us." They were right. I wasn't just rebuilding the school. I was tearing out the roots. I kept that letter in my desk drawer. Didn't throw it away. Didn't show it to anyone. I read it every morning like a ritual. You didn't just come back to fix things. You came to erase us. They were right and wrong. I didn't want to erase everyone. Just the rot. The people who held others down, because they were afraid of losing their place. The ones who whispered that girls like me would vanish. But they weren't going quietly. 2 weeks after the board members stepped down, I started getting hit from another angle. Real estate. Suddenly, small properties near the campus were being bought up fast, cash-only offers, most of them way over market value. At first, I thought it was competition, developers trying to ride my project's success. But then I looked deeper. The buyers? They weren't developers. They were proxies, fronts, and all of them linked eventually to one name, Tim Ricker. Yup, Coach Ricker's son. I hadn't seen him since high school. Back then he was just a red-faced linebacker with a chip on his shoulder. Now he was a real estate guy with slick suits and a license to cause trouble. He was buying up land to box me in, trying to limit expansion, drive up my costs, and corner the future development around my campus. It was brilliant, petty, greedy, but smart. So I invited him to lunch. We met at the one decent diner left in Wabash Tilly's, over by the river. He walked in late, smiling like he owned the place. "Damn, Lainey, you clean up nice," he said, sitting down across from me. "I always cleaned up nice. You just never looked," I said. He laughed like it was a joke, but I didn't smile. I know what you're doing, I said. The fake LLCs, the quick flips, the inflated appraisals. He didn't deny it. Just stirred his coffee. Free country, he said. If I see value, I invest. Besides, you're not the only one trying to shape this town. I leaned forward. You're not shaping anything. You're cashing in on something you didn't build. Maybe, but I've got leverage now. You want to grow that pretty campus of yours? You'll need my land. I stared at him for a long second. Then I said, your father taught you one thing well. What's that? How to mistake someone's silence for weakness. That night, I called in every chip I had. I brought in a zoning lawyer from Chicago. Had him file a proposal to reclassify the entire development area as an innovation district, a state-backed initiative that gave my company the power to override local ownership on future expansions if the land was being used for public education infrastructure. Basically, eminent domain with better branding. If approved, I could force a buyout on all those fake LLC-owned plots for fair market value. No inflated prices.
No leverage.
No choice. The vote was in 30 days. And the town was about to split in half. Jenny Hensley didn't take it quietly. She started showing up at council meetings again, holding town forums. During fear. She's taking your homes, she told people. She doesn't want to fix Wabash, she wants to own it. And some folks believed her. Because it's easier to fear a woman in charge than it is to admit the old ways failed. Then the threats started. Not anonymous letters this time. Spray paint. Broken car windows. Harassing emails to my staff. One of my interns, only 19, got followed home. We filed reports. Increased security. But I knew where it was coming from. This wasn't just about land anymore. This was about legacy. I was trying to build something new, and the people who clung to the past were willing to burn the future to stop me. And that's when I made a mistake. I told the truth at a town hall. I said, I came back because I never wanted another kid to feel what I felt. To be told they'll peak at 17. To be dismissed because they didn't fit someone's mold. I paused. Looked right at Jenny. But maybe some of you don't want a better Wabash. Maybe you just want your version of it to last forever. Even if it's crumbling around you. Half the room applauded. The other half walked out. And in that silence I realized something dangerous. I wasn't just fighting for change anymore. I was fighting a war for memory. For who gets to tell the story of this town. The vote came faster than I expected. 30 days had turned into 22 after some of the zoning board members fast-tracked the hearing due to public pressure. I wasn't surprised. People had been shouting outside my office building every afternoon. Signs. Bullhorns. Chants. No to the land grab. She's not one of us. We remember who you were. The funny thing was, most of them didn't remember who I was. Not really. They remembered the girl they built in their heads. Loud. Angry. Unwanted. And maybe I had become that girl again. Just older. With better weapons. I walked into the town council building wearing a black blazer, dark jeans, and boots. I wasn't there to charm anyone. I was there to finish this. The room was packed. Reporters. Protesters. Curious neighbors. And in the front row, Ginny and Tim. Side by side. Looking smug. The vote needed 5 out of 7 to pass. I had 4 locked in. 1 was shaky. 2 were firmly against me. I took the podium. This isn't about control, I said. This is about opportunity. This is about making sure Wabash doesn't die the way so many towns like it already have. You think I want to erase your memories? I don't. I want to give your kids something better to remember. Then I looked directly at the shaky vote. A man named Pete Myers. Retired factory foreman. Granddaughter in the school system. I said, Pete, your granddaughter told me last week she wants to be an engineer. She can't afford Purdue. You and I both know that. But if this passes, she won't have to leave Wabash to build something great. Silence. Then Pete nodded. The vote passed, 5-2. The fallout was instant. Tim's real estate scheme collapsed. The eminent domain clause locked in. He'd overpaid for every property. And now the buyouts were capped at state valuation way below what he needed to break even. He filed lawsuits. He lost. Jenny doubled down with the paper. Published a piece titled, She Won But at What Cost? It tried to paint me as a tyrant. But by then, national outlets had already picked up the story. Wabash was being called a model for rural tech education. Kids were enrolling from 3 counties over. The new campus opened with full funding. Solar fields glittered across what used to be corn rows. The labs bore my name. Laney Heart Innovation Center etched into steel. I thought I'd feel proud, powerful, maybe even healed. But the day it opened, I didn't show up. I stayed in the motel I used to live in during visits, sat on the bed, stared at the old yearbook someone had mailed me, flipped through the pages, saw their faces, the ones who doubted me, the ones who laughed, saw mine too, and I realized I had become something else entirely. Not the storm, not the season, something colder, something harder. I hadn't just proved them wrong. I had crushed them, systematically, without mercy. A week later I went to visit Tim. Found him at the old football field, sitting alone on the bleachers. Came to gloat? He asked. No, I said. Came to see what I destroyed. He looked at me, bitter, but honest. You win, Laney. The town's yours. But it don't feel like Wabash anymore. I nodded. That was the point. Jenny left town soon after. Her name faded like her father's did. Nobody asked where she went. Tim stayed, but quiet. Last I heard, he was coaching Pee Wee football, teaching the next generation how to lose. And me, I moved on. Not because I wanted to, because I had to. You can only live among your ghosts for so long before you become one of them. But the building stayed. The kids thrived. The town changed even if it hated me for making it happen. They once said I was a passing storm. But storms don't build futures. Storms don't bury names. Storms don't rewrite history. I wasn't the weather. I was the one who held the pen when their stories ended. And when the snow came, when time buried them in silence, mine was the only name carved in stone. Laney Hart. Once forgotten, now impossible to erase.